The Akatsuki wasn't just some random group of rogue shinobi thrown together for convenience. It was built on a fixed, intentional structure, 10 members, each one corresponding to a single finger on a massive and menacing statue known as the Gedo Mazo. That structure wasn't symbolic fluff, it had real, functional meaning. Every member wore a unique ring, and each ring belonged to a specific finger of the statue. Because of that strict limitation, the Akatsuki could never have more than 10 core members at any moment. The rings weren't jewelry, they were keys. Keys that defined each member's position, role, and eligibility to participate in the group's most important ritual, the sealing of the tailed beasts. These rings were permanent, one-of-a-kind tools. They couldn't be duplicated, and that detail ended up shaping the entire history of the organization. For example, when Orochimaru abandoned the Akatsuki, he took his ring with him. That missing ring was never recreated or reassigned, meaning that, from that moment on, the group lost the ability to operate at full capacity. The empty finger on the Gedo Mazo couldn't activate during the sealing ritual, slowing the process and weakening the overall power output. Later on, when members like Hidan and Kakuzu were defeated, the exact same problem resurfaced: no ring, no replacement, no full lineup. A new recruit could only join if they recovered the previous member's ring. No ring meant no place in the circle. That's how strict the system was. Alright, with that foundation out of the way, let's dive into each ring and the deeper meaning behind them, starting first with one of the most iconic figures in the entire story. Itachi's ring, the Crimson Seal. Itachi's scarlet ring sits on the index finger of his right hand. The index finger is traditionally associated with focus, precision, and deliberate decision-making, qualities that define Itachi's entire personality. He never acts without intention. Every move he makes is calculated, measured, and aligned with a deeper purpose. The kanji on his ring represents a deep red, a shade often associated with cinnabar. And that color carries a lot of symbolism when it comes to Itachi. First, red calls back to the Uchiha's Sharingan, the clan's trademark and Itachi's primary source of power. His eyes, glowing red, are a constant reminder of the lineage he carries and the burden he bears. Second, red is the color of blood. The blood of the Uchiha clan, the people he was forced to kill to protect the Leaf Village under a classified mission. The ring's color becomes a quiet echo of the pain and sacrifice he carried alone for years. Third, in Japanese and Chinese culture, deep red is also tied to fire. This pairs naturally with Itachi's affinity for fire-style techniques, especially Amaterasu, black flames said to come from a sun deity, burning eternally. Even though Itachi was not the most proactive member during the sealing rituals, his ring played an essential role as one of the chakra focal points. It acted as a conduit, channeling energy into the Gedo Mazo. In short, the Crimson Ring isn't just an accessory, it's a subtle symbol of everything Itachi embodies: power, suffering, sacrifice, and the double life he was forced to live. It reflects the tragedy of a man who carried the world's hatred to protect the very people who would never understand him. Pain's ring, the origin of all things. Pain's ring sits on the right thumb, a position symbolizing dominance, leadership, and control. In Japanese mysticism and chakra philosophy, the thumb represents willpower and the capacity to lead, perfectly fitting for Pain, who acted as the face, commander, and ideological spearhead of the Akatsuki. The kanji on his ring reads, Rei, meaning zero, or nothingness. Although nothing may sound like nihilism, within philosophical symbolism, zero represents the beginning before form, the origin point of all creation. Pain is exactly that within the Akatsuki, the starting point, the rebirth, the ideological reset. While Nagato was the true mastermind, only Yahiko's body, the diva path, wore the ring. Yahiko was the original founder of the Akatsuki during its idealistic stage, when it was a movement for peace, not destruction. His death and transformation into Pain marked the symbolic and literal rebirth of the organization. The concept of zero aligns with Pain's vision, a world reset through controlled destruction, a new beginning born from chaos. This ties directly into the Gedo Mazo, the vessel designed to accumulate the chakra of the tailed beasts and reshape the world. During the sealing rituals, Pain's ring glowed brighter than most, reflecting his central role in channeling chakra and controlling the process. His ring wasn't just a sign of authority, it was a functional anchor in the group's power system. Together, these symbols reinforce one truth. Pain's ring didn't represent emptiness, it represented the reset button to reforge the world. Hidan's ring, the power of three. Hidan wears his ring on the left index finger, a finger traditionally connected to ritual, direction, and command. Considering Hidan treats every battle like a religious ceremony for Jashin, the symbolism couldn't be more accurate. The kanji on his ring reads, San, meaning 3, and in Hidan's life, the number 3 shows up everywhere. His scythe has 3 blades. His forehead protector has 3 scratches. The symbol of Jashin is a triangle, 3 sides. His combat style follows ritualistic 3-step patterns. Even his survival history mirrors this motif. Hidan endured 3 near-death encounters, against Izumo and Kotetsu, against Asuma severing his head, and finally against Shikamaru, who dismembered and buried him. Despite all that, Hidan cannot die. He's a living symbol of immortality, repetition, and cycles, concepts deeply tied to the number 3 in many cultures. There are also hints that Hidan's ring helps stabilize chakra during his Jashin rituals, particularly during the tailed beast sealing ceremonies. The ring's finger placement aligns perfectly with the Gedo Mazo's corresponding finger, forming a complete ritual circle where each finger contributes to a collective pattern. In essence, Hidan's ring reflects everything about him: ritualistic, obsessive, immortal, and cyclic. Orochimaru's ring, the empty sky. Orochimaru's ring sits on the left pinky, the smallest and most isolated finger. A spot that almost screams, "You're part of the group, but not truly one of us." Which perfectly describes Orochimaru's role. Brilliant, powerful, but disloyal and ultimately incompatible with the Akatsuki's goals. The kanji on his ring reads, Ku, meaning, sky, emptiness, or void. All 3 meanings describe him. First, emptiness represents the gap he left behind when he fled, taking his ring with him. Without that ring, the Akatsuki permanently lost the ability to operate at full capacity. The sealing rituals became slower and less effective. Second, sky symbolizes boundless ambition. Orochimaru was never meant to be contained. His goals, immortality, mastery of all jutsu, transcendence, were too large for any organization. He wanted a sky to himself, a realm where nothing limited his evolution. Even after leaving, Orochimaru continued to affect the group. When Itachi severed his hand during battle, Orochimaru preserved the detached arms solely to keep his ring. That act alone prevented the Akatsuki from ever achieving a full 10-man formation again. His ring is less a badge of membership and more a permanent reminder of a void the group could never fill. Konan's ring, the silent balance. Konan wears her ring on the middle finger of her right hand, a placement associated with balance, neutrality, and stability. This symbolism fits her perfectly. As one of the original founders of the Akatsuki and Nagato's closest confidant, Konan was the stabilizing force within a group full of extreme personalities. She didn't seek attention, didn't act impulsively, she simply upheld the mission with calm, quiet resolve. The kanji carved into her ring means white, and if you think about it, white captures Konan's essence. Her paper ninjutsu takes the form of countless sheets of blank, white paper, delicate in appearance, yet unbelievably lethal in her hands. She doesn't rely on brute strength. Her power comes from precision, calculation, and mastery over her technique. White is also associated with coolness and emotional restraint. Exactly how Konan operates. She rarely displays anger or desperation. Even when she fights alone, as she does in her iconic battle against Obito, she acts from loyalty, not emotion. Her commitment to Nagato's ideals is absolute. In many ways, Konan is the blank canvas upon which Pain's philosophy was written. She never deviates from the path they believed in. During the tailed beast sealing rituals, her ring served as one of the conduits that channeled chakra into the Gedo Mazo. Though she wasn't as flashy as Pain or as feared as Itachi, her presence was essential. Her ring symbolizes what she has always been: quiet, steady, reliable, and impossible to replace. Deidara's ring, art in blue and green. Deidara's ring sits on the right index finger, a finger connected to creativity, expression, and individuality. Out of all Akatsuki members, Deidara embodies artistic expression the most. To him, every explosion is a masterpiece, a fleeting moment of destructive beauty. His signature philosophy, art is an explosion, sums up his entire worldview. The kanji on his ring reads, Sei, which can be interpreted as either blue or green. Both colors reflect different sides of Deidara. Blue symbolizes control and calmness, traits he displays when manipulating his explosive clay with absolute precision. Green represents vitality and energy, matching his fiery personality, unpredictable fighting style, and relentless competitiveness. There's also a subtle thematic contrast between Deidara's ring and Itachi's crimson one. In many cultures, red and blue are opposing colors. And in the story, Deidara sees Itachi not out of hatred, but as a rival in art. Itachi's illusions represent permanence and stillness, while Deidara's explosions represent motion and impermanence. Their rings reflect that fundamental artistic clash. During the tailed beast sealing rituals, Deidara's ring played a vital role by anchoring his chakra into the Gedo Mazo. That's why, after losing a hand in battle, he immediately worried about retrieving his ring, not out of pride, but because without it, he would no longer hold a place in the Akatsuki. The ring wasn't just symbolic, it was practical, functional, and essential. Zetsu's ring, the hidden boar. Zetsu's ring sits on the right pinky finger, a placement often overlooked, just like him. But that's exactly what makes the symbolism perfect. Zetsu isn't a frontline fighter, or a flashy member by any means. Instead, he is the watcher, the informer, the manipulator operating from within the shadows. The kanji on his ring is associated with a wild boar, an animal symbolizing endurance, cunning, and persistence. Across his two personas, White Zetsu and Black Zetsu, these traits manifest clearly. White Zetsu is more playful, more talkative, and often used as a scout or decoy. Black Zetsu, on the other hand, is far more sinister. He is the physical embodiment of Kaguya's will, quietly manipulating events for centuries. Like the boar, Zetsu never acts hastily. He is patient, he waits, he endures, and when he moves, it's for a calculated long-term purpose. He watches over battles, cleans up corpses, tracks Jinchuriki, and ensures the sealing rituals proceed without interruption. His role is invisible but foundational. Many fans believe the boar symbol runs deeper, not only representing resilience, but also representing hidden destruction and rebirth. This mirrors Zetsu's real role, a silent agent orchestrating the revival of Kaguya. His ring, therefore, is a reminder that even the smallest presence can hold the darkest influence. Without Zetsu, the Akatsuki's plans would collapse instantly. The Jade Ring, worn by Sasori, then Tobi. One of the most fascinating rings belongs to Sasori first, and later Tobi. This ring is worn on the left thumb, a position associated with lasting authority and long-term influence. The kanji on the ring means jade, a stone that, in Eastern cultures, symbolizes purity, endurance, and timeless beauty. For Sasori, jade reflects his obsession with eternal art. He transformed his own body into a puppet, believing that true beauty is that which never decays. In his mind, permanence equals perfection. His ring symbolizes this desire to preserve beauty forever, just like jade that remains flawless over centuries. But when Sasori dies and Tobi inherits the ring, its meaning shifts dramatically. Tobi, later revealed as Obito, represents something completely different. Jade no longer symbolizes permanence but rebirth. Obito changes, evolves, and reinvents himself over and over, from an idealistic boy to a masked prankster, then to a manipulative mastermind, and ultimately to a man aiming to reshape the entire world. For him, Jade becomes the catalyst for transformation rather than preservation. This handoff marks a turning point in the Akatsuki's identity. Under Sasori, the group is still functioning like a mercenary squad. Under Tobi, the group evolves into a global threat with an apocalyptic mission. The left thumb position on the Gedo Mazo, representing authority and deep influence, fits both of them. Whether through puppet strings or manipulation of entire nations, both Sasori and Tobi pulled the threads that changed the world. Kisame's ring, the Southern Sea. Kisame's ring sits on the left index finger, a finger tied to leadership and direction. Even though Kisame wasn't the official leader, he acted as a frontline spear in many missions and consistently supported Itachi with unwavering loyalty. He didn't belong to any village anymore. His loyalty belonged entirely to the Akatsuki's cause. The kanji on his ring means south. At first glance, it may sound vague, but the symbolism is on point. Kisame hails from the Mist Village, located near southern seas. His shark-like appearance, his water manipulation, and his monstrous chakra levels all match the nature of southern oceans, vast, deep, and dangerous. His sword, Samahata, literally fuses with him, turning Kisame into an even more fearsome aquatic predator. In Eastern philosophy, the south corresponds to the water element, reinforcing the connection between Kisame and his ring. There's also a thematic contrast with Kakuzu, whose ring symbolizes north. Together, north and south represent opposite poles, but both are essential to balance. Kisame's unwavering loyalty and brutal strength form one half of that dynamic. During the sealing rituals, Kisame's chakra, channeled through his ring, played a stabilizing role. He may not have been the most symbolically layered character, but his reliability and destructive power made him one of the pillars of the organization. Kakuzu's ring, the Northern Endurance. Kakuzu's ring is worn on the middle finger of his left hand, a finger associated with responsibility, discipline, and balance. This is fitting for someone like Kakuzu, who functions less like a shinobi following ideals and more like a calculating mercenary. He sees missions not as moral obligations but as business transactions. If the job pays well, he'll take it. If a teammate bothers him, he'll eliminate them without hesitation. The kanji on his ring represents north, forming a symbolic opposite to Kisame's south. Even though the series never explicitly emphasizes this connection, the contrast is meaningful. In Eastern symbolism, the north embodies endurance, stoicism, cold, and survival, attributes that align perfectly with Kakuzu's character. He is methodical, resilient, and incredibly difficult to kill. His unique ability to extend his lifespan by stealing and replacing hearts turns him into an embodiment of longevity. This theme matches the northern symbolism of persisting through harsh conditions, surviving long after others would fall. Kakuzu's temper is notoriously short, and he's known for killing his partners. The only reason he tolerated Hidan for so long was because Hidan simply couldn't die, making him the only teammate Kakuzu couldn't fire. Ironically, this unlikely partnership became one of the most iconic duos in the Akatsuki. During the tailed beast sealing rituals, Kakuzu's ring channeled his chakra into the Gedo Mazo. Even though his ring doesn't carry the sentimental depth of Itachi's or the thematic complexity of Pain's, it represents something the Akatsuki depended on: cold pragmatism. In a group filled with ideologues and extremists, Kakuzu was the necessary force of practicality, a reminder that the organization wasn't just a dream for world domination but also a machine fueled by resourcefulness, endurance, and survival. To the Akatsuki, North didn't mean leadership. It meant persistence, and Kakuzu embodied that word effortlessly. And that brings us to the end of our deep dive into all 10 Akatsuki rings and the symbolic meaning each one carries. These rings aren't just small details in the story, they're a hidden system that reveals how the organization works, how its power flows, and how its members reflect the roles they were destined to play. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to leave a like. It genuinely helps the channel grow and gives me the motivation to keep creating more deep dive content like this. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care, everyone.